Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Literacy and Reading Standing Committee in collaboration with the Public Libraries session as part of our Reflecting Back and Thinking Forward seminar. This is our midterm program online, our first webinar, and we're really excited to welcome you today. My name's Jan Richards and I am the Information Coordinator for the Literacy and Reading Standing Committee, and I'm also the Chair of IFLA's Division 1. And I'm speaking to you this evening, for me, from Bruny Island off the southeast coast of Tasmania, Australia. And I'd like to acknowledge the New people who are the traditional owners of the land on which I work and I live, and pay my respects to their ancestors and to the living culture that they play in this land. I'd also like to acknowledge First Nation people around the world. I'd really like to know where you are tonight, and so we have chat available on the webinar platform. Why don't you just give us a message and tell us whereabouts in the world you are, and so later we can reflect back at how many wonderful people there were here. So we're really excited about our program tonight, which is about reading during COVID. And we have 6 fantastic speakers who are going to each share a really exciting story about innovative projects during COVID. Lots to inspire us, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions. So can I suggest that if you have a question, you use the Q&A facility, which is at the bottom of your screen, and that you pop that question in. We'll take all the questions at the end of the session. So yeah, let's sit back and enjoy an hour of fantastic speakers from our team who have gathered here today. Now, I've had a little bit of a technical hitch, so I'm going to have to lean across and get my iPad so I can introduce the speakers to you, because they've disappeared off my screen or any of my 3 screens, which is, you know, the way of things when we are least expecting it, isn't it? But hey, you know, we'll get there. So our first speakers are Lucy Green and Jenna Spiering, and they're both from the School of Library program at the University of South Carolina in the USA. They are both previously school librarians, and they are both members of IFLA's Literacy and Reading Standing Committee. And they've been working on a really innovative project over the last 12 months, I believe, if not a little bit longer. And I will ask them now to talk to you about it. I would have said more, but you know, that piece of paper's disappeared. So you can go onto the website and you can read a lot more about what they're doing. So anyway, let's welcome. I'm not quite sure who's going. I think Lucy is, because I can see her face live. So I think Lucy is going first, and there's Jenna as well. So yeah, ladies, over to you.
Thank you. Jenna and I are going to be co-presenting today. So I'm going to share our presentation, if y'all will bear with me for just a quick little second. There, can everyone see our presentation? And hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay, Jenna, you ready?
Yep.
All right, everyone, welcome. We are so pleased to be first on the panel today, and we are appreciative of your attendance and excited to share this information with y'all. Today, we are going to be presenting on difficult conversations confronting social justice issues through literacy and reading efforts in South Carolina, United States of America. So I'm Dr. Lucy Santos Green, and along with my co-presenter, Dr. Jenna Spiering, we would like to share with y'all the ways libraries in the United States have helped to lead difficult conversations on social justice and systemic racism during an especially difficult year, the year of the COVID-19 pandemic. As many of you probably know, the United States is a federal system, and it comprises many states that operate in fundamentally independent ways. So to give you a sample today, we are going to focus on the state of South Carolina, which is home of the institution where we teach and work, the University of South Carolina, and specifically the School of Information.
Okay, we also wanted to thank a few of our colleagues who helped us to put the presentation together today. Dr. Nicole Cooke, Christine Sheelick, Valerie Birdfort, and Dr. Liz Hartnett helped us to compile information about all of the programs that we're going to share with you.
Just a bit of background on South Carolina. To set the scene, and you can see right there where the red arrow is pointing with our university's mascot, South Carolina is a state located in the southeastern part of the United States, above Georgia and Florida. It is one of the original 13 colonies chartered by the British in 1729. And yes, I know there are restaurants in Europe older than South Carolina. A painful aspect of the state's history that is relevant to our presentation today. South Carolina was a slave society. Charleston, South Carolina was one of the largest slave ports in the world, and the colony had the highest percentage of enslaved Africans, over 60% of the population, by the time it was chartered as a province. Of the 4 million enslaved people in the United States, over 400,000, a good 10%, lived in South Carolina. So as you can see, racism has a long history in the United States, and its impact can be found in every facet of education, business, media, infrastructure, and day-to-day life. After the killing of George Floyd in Minnesota and several other high-profile police shootings listed here, including one that just happened a couple of days ago, Black Lives Matter protests took place across the country and have continued as activists demand substantial change. In fact, right now, we're in the midst of another series of protests. Today, we want to highlight the different programs and efforts that use library programming focused on reading and literacy to help people navigate the difficult conversations that are so necessary when we finally are coming face to face with one's place and responsibility within systemic racism.
We're going to start by talking about the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy right here on campus, and one of the programs, which is called Cooke's Reading Express. On campus, we have this South Carolina Center for Community Literacy, which we affectionately call SCCCL, and it serves for a hub for literacy resources for not only students on campus, but also pre-service teachers and librarians that are on campus, but also K-12 students in South Carolina, their parents, and other community organizations that are dedicated to serving youth. At the beginning of the pandemic, SCCCL pivoted all of those resources, which were already online, but there's also a lot of physical activity that happens at the center and around in the community, by developing a website where they could share resources for parents and teachers who are navigating learning at home and supporting students in virtual environments. On the screen, I have a capture of the website, but we also share this resource later on in the presentation. It includes things like educational games and videos, a collection of ebooks and places to access those, virtual field trips, lots and lots of links and recordings for virtual story times, and mental health resources as well. The center has always been engaged in community outreach initiatives across the state. And the most popular program on campus here is Cooke's Reading Express. Cooke is our mascot for sporting events. You can see him here in the video. This program typically involves a group of University of South Carolina students who travel across the state with the mascot to visit underserved elementary schools in the state, and they hold an assembly where Cooke and the students read aloud to the younger students. And then the students pledge to read one book a day, and Cooke gifts them with their own book. Like other programs, Cooke's Reading Express had to pivot during the pandemic to virtual programming. And so the staff at Skill and the director of the program, Valerie Bird-Fort, created a YouTube channel with read alouds of the book in lieu of these assemblies that they had been holding across the state. Educators created videos reading aloud some of their favorite children's books, and then the videos were accessible for teachers and parents who could share with students in online learning. And I have one example here on the next slide.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Cooke's Reading Express. My name is Dearybury. I am an educator here in South Carolina. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of South Carolina Upstate, where I teach teachers how to be teachers. And today I'm going to read you a wonderful book by author Peter H. Reynolds titled Be You. We want to give a special shout out to Orchard Books for giving us permission to read this book today. I hope you enjoy it.
So you can see that Cooke, this is our mascot, kind of acts out as the different people read books. So he's very popular with our young students in the state. And I included the YouTube channel that includes all of these read alouds again at the end of the presentation.
Sorry, guys, it kept playing when I hit the next button. The next program we want to highlight is called Project Ready, Reimagining Equity and Access for Diverse Youth. Project Ready South Carolina is a joint effort by the Augusta Baker Chair, the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy at the University of South Carolina's iSchool, in partnership with the South Carolina State Library. This course provides professional development for school and public youth services librarians, as well as other professionals working with youth. The program incorporates the Project Ready curriculum created at the University of North Carolina and funded by an Institute of Museum and Library Services grant. The curriculum focuses on foundational concepts related to racial equity, with a specific focus on services to Black, Indigenous, and youth of color. These materials are designed to be used in conjunction with meetings, and these can be held in person or online, and group discussions. The participants in this particular statewide cohort worked through the curriculum and participated in group discussions during regular Zoom sessions that included guest speakers. They also learned continuing education credits for their work. And I had some sample module titles there so they all can see all the different aspects that they addressed. These are just a couple of the modules. There's about three times this amount. And this is completely free. And so the link is also shared at the end of the presentation with y'all.
I'm going to talk about a couple of different virtual book clubs that were held associated with the University of South Carolina as well. The first is the Anti-Racist Book Club. It was started by a University of South Carolina college student, and it was supported by a professor in the College of Education and our colleague Valerie Bird-Fort at Skill. And the Anti-Racist Book Club gathered to meet last summer to read Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi's book Stamped. This is actually a young adult adaptation of Kendi's much larger book, which was a National Book Award winning title. And the book details the deep roots of racist ideas in our country and the way that they have been perpetuated in all institutions here. This book club was made up of pre-service teachers, so teachers who are studying to become teachers in the state, librarians, administrators, and currently practicing teachers and librarians as well who are working in schools. A chance for them to kind of talk together, those who are learning to be teachers and who are people who are actually out working in the field. The book club was designed for those of us who have been wondering what we can do in response to social justice movements in the US, like Lucy mentioned earlier in our presentation, where we can begin, how do we confront systemic racism, how do we become actively anti-racist, how do we dismantle white supremacy, and to really understand what these concepts and words mean. So it was a space to talk about that with teachers and librarians together. Another series of book club discussions that I'm involved with are currently being held virtually, pivoted virtually, and are offered as part of a grant that was funded by the Library of Congress Teaching with Primary Sources program. My colleagues here in the iSchool and also over in the College of Education are offering a series of virtual book clubs about titles related to the civil rights movement in the United States. The first book, A More Beautiful and Terrible History, pardon me, lays the foundation for these talks by delving deeply into the complex histories and even some of the myths that are associated with famous moments and figures of the civil rights history. So it challenges details of some of those stories that students are always taught in schools, like Rosa Parks giving up her seat on the bus, some of the way that famous figures like Dr. Martin Luther King are portrayed. The next two titles then are actually young adult selections that teachers could use with students, like the second one, Showtime at the Apollo, which is a graphic novel, and then Lifting as We Climb, Black Women's Battle for the Ballot Box. Participants in these book club discussions include school librarians and social studies teachers from across the state who will read the books, and then together they will think about how we can use the books with students by pairing them with primary sources that are available through the vast collections at the Library of Congress. By including school librarians and social studies teachers, our participants have an opportunity to think about potential collaborative projects that they can be doing in their own schools.
The next aspect we'd like to highlight are the Augusta Baker programs, and this is headed by our endowed chair, Dr. Nicole Cooke. Part of a Children, Libraries, and Literacy initiative of the University of South Carolina School of Information Science, the chair honors Augusta Braxton Baker, a legendary and beloved children's librarian and storyteller who made South Carolina her home after a 37-year career at the New York Public Library. A trailblazer for Black librarianship, she wrote books about Negro life for children, later renamed The Black Experience in Children's Books, the first extensive bibliography of children's books that feature positive Black role models. And she was the first African-American coordinator of children's services for all 82 libraries within the New York Public Library system. Following her retirement, Baker joined the School of Information Science in 1980 as the university's storyteller in residence for 14 years. The current chairholder is Dr. Nicole Cooke, and we want to highlight a few projects that Dr. Cooke put into place this past year. The first is the Anti-Racism Resources for All Ages Padlet. In her own words, Dr. Cooke describes the reason for creating this widely shared resource. Quote, "This project emerged out of the pain and frustration associated with the back-to-back deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery in 2020. We must do better as a global society. Black lives matter. This list is not a panacea. This compilation of resources is just a starting point to encourage people to do their own work and have their own hard conversations." A second program, each year's Augusta Baker Lecture, features those in library, children's literature, and storytelling professions who espouse Baker's advocacy for equity, social justice, and diverse literature. This year's speaker is Black feminist and poet and children's author Zetta Elliott, a 2021 Caldecott Honor Book author, and we are really looking forward to this program. Another effort of the Baker Chair are the Spring 2021 Diversity Series, and there's a little bit of information on the slide there and a picture of one of these. Each lecture is recorded and freely available, along with slides and a suggested reading list. Guests include experts in school librarianship, youth advocacy, education, information privilege, technology, and cultural heritage. An example of one of the lectures offered, Dr. Sarah Dolan's presentation on children's literature depicting the Asian diaspora. So here we have links to the resources of everything that we've discussed, including an opportunity, if you would like, to register for the Zetta Elliott Augusta Baker lecture, which is coming up on April 16th. It is a free event and open to the public, so we highly encourage you to take advantage. And we would like to thank you so much for attending this presentation. Jenna, I'll let you wrap us up there and share how people can access.
Yes, thank you so much. To access just both our presentation, but also those resources that Lucy just talked about on the previous slide, you can scan the QR code on the left. And thank you so much.
And we'll leave this up for just a few seconds in case anyone wants to scan it with their phone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Oh, hang on. Thank you so much, Jenna and Lucy. A really interesting presentation and so many things in there to unpack. I would certainly encourage people to register for the seminar on the 16th. And but great to see such work around civil issues, and I love the idea of a storyteller in residence. I guess one of the things I'd ask either of you is, have you ever had to be in the cocky suit? I know that at the library that I worked at until I retired, we had a mascot called Frida the Reader, and at one stage, who was a platypus, and at one stage, every member of staff, I think, got to be inside her. And I was selected as the lucky bunny on a day that was 41 degrees, wearing a big fur suit. So I'd like to know if either of you have been cocky at some stage in your professional career.
University mascots, actually, university mascots are really competitive positions. The students compete for them. They have to actually be part of the cheers. A lot of them are part of the cheerleading squad, and it's a scholarship, and it's a secret. You don't know who cocky is until the student graduates, and a new cocky then receives the suit. So it's really exciting. So
is Cocky a reader?
Cocky, yes, and is the face of the reading program, but Cocky does not talk. He crows. But we highly encourage y'all to check out the storytelling YouTube channel. It's just fantastic. And the way that Cocky acts out these stories is just adorable.
And of course, I should mention to everybody that all our presentations will be on our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to go back and listen in more detail, and also to be able to look at all those resources. And of course, we have the QR code as well. So thank you very much, Lucy and Jenna. Our second presentation, our third speaker, is Annie Everall from the UK, who is the director of Authors Allowed UK, which is an agency that organises school visits, tours and events. And she has over 300 authors, illustrators, poets, storytellers and their publishers. She also has a long career in librarianship, and also a long career in working with IFLA. And Annie was recognised by the British government with an OBE, the Order of the British Empire, for services to children's books and libraries in 2001. So, and Annie was our host last night on the Children's Laureate session, which I'm sure many of you were at as well. So Annie, over to you.
Fingers crossed for the technology that works. Hello, everybody. It's really lovely to be here, to be able to share some of our experiences during COVID, and to give you an idea of our journey through this process. Who we are. We're a company that specialises in arranging author, illustrator, poet, storyteller visits, physical visits into schools, festivals, conferences, libraries, both in the UK and internationally. What we do, as I say, we organise physical author visits to schools and libraries, etc. Author tours, we organise those for publishers and other organisations, book launches, special events and projects, training courses for teachers, librarians and authors, basically any ways that we can find to bring authors together with children, young people, teachers and librarians. We were doing that quite happily until March of 2020 when COVID lockdown happened. All schools were closed. We had no idea for how long. We had over 70 school visits that had been planned, which were cancelled. All our publisher tours and special events were cancelled for the foreseeable future, and no government support funding for companies like ours. So you can see our reaction. So the question we then asked is, what do we do now? Do we give up completely and close the company down? Do we give up temporarily and hope things will change? Or do we move in a new direction? And we said, yes, we'll look to find ways of moving in a new direction, because it was important to find new ways to bring authors and children and books and stories together. So from April to June, we contacted all our authors and we worked with those who wanted to develop a virtual school offer at that time. We worked with our web designers to develop a new area of our website for virtual visits. We started to develop our own digital skills and our platform knowledge with help from a very good colleague of ours. Because as I say, if you had asked me 12 months ago about Zoom, I would have thought you were talking about a lens on my camera. So I've come a long way since then. We talked to partners, publishers, organisations, and then it came to Empathy Day in June, which was our first trip really into the virtual world. Empathy Day, that last year, one of the campaigns was to develop and make your own empathy glasses to help you understand what it's like to be someone else. So we asked our authors to create empathy glasses and post pictures of themselves on social media. And you can see Naomi and I got involved with that as well. And it worked really well for us and for people. In July, we worked with our authors to get their videos produced to go onto the new area of the website and our new YouTube channel to get it ready for launch. And also in July, led by the Department for Education with lots of other organisations, including us, we organised a National Reading Together Day. It was a day of activities to get parents reading together with their children at home and to promote the message about reading during the summer holidays. So we organised 3 leading children's author events during that day, and it was a very successful day. In August, we worked with the Association of Senior Children's and Education Librarians and the libraries across the country to organise a series of virtual author events to support libraries during the summer holidays and support the Summer Reading Challenge, so that libraries could offer author events to children and families but who were at home, but through us hosting them on our platform. In September, we actually started virtual author visits to schools, and schools would book an author and that was our starting point. And at the same time, we launched our Authors Online website and our new YouTube channel, which featured lots of videos by our authors so people could get a taste of them. And linked in with that, we held a virtual launch party. And 25 of our authors and illustrators and poets and storytellers attended the virtual launch party. They each did 1-minute speed date performances to give the audience a taste of what they could do in schools. And we also offered a free 30-minute virtual visit. And we did that as a live Twitter draw the day after our virtual launch party. And we were really excited because we had over 300 teachers and librarians attend that. So it gave us hope for the future. In October, we worked with the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals in the UK, and we launched National Libraries Week for and with them. with a panel event called My Library, My Books and Me, where we had 8 or 7 authors and the chair of the school libraries group who talked about the library and the books that had had an impact on them during their lives and helped to make them the people that they are today. And allied with that, the campaign had an initiative called Express Your Shelf, where everyone was encouraged to post a picture of themselves on social media with the books that had had an impact on their life. And this is one of our authors, Ali Sherrick, who posted hers. In November, we had more virtual school visits. We had a lot more author tours and book launches for publishers and a second virtual party because it had been so popular. And those are just 2 pictures. The left-hand picture is the Horrible Histories illustrator, Tony DeSaules, doing an online draw along workshop with students, and you can see his illustration at the top. On the right is author Jane Elson. We did a book launch for her new book, Moondog, and as you can see, she brought a friend who at the point that she was just about to start reading decided he wanted to get up close and personal with her. So it was really fun, and it bore out the phrase, don't work with children and animals. Sorry. In December, we had a number of authors who were originally not confident about doing virtual visits in schools, so hadn't offered one, who then wanted to. So we designed and delivered a training course for those, and they are now offering virtual school visits. And we had more virtual school visits. We had a number of multi-school author tours and book launches. And the one with Catherine Doyle, that's the picture there, that was our first multi-school visit. And it actually took us really by surprise because we ended up with 9,500 children registering to take part in this event through their schools. It was a bit scary because it was our first and we were worried that Zoom wouldn't behave itself. But after a couple of small technical hitches, which we were able to resolve quite quickly, it was a brilliant event and we had lots of feedback from children and young people. So here we are now in 2021 and in January, we had a 3rd national lockdown and all schools closed. So over this period of time, we've been developing a strong focus on partnership with schools and other organisations. We've been delivering virtual school visits with authors to families at home, either directly or through their schools. We've certainly seen a growth in tours and events with authors that we've been commissioned by publishers to organise. And we've also seen a growth in international virtual school visits by our authors, because one of the real benefits of the virtual world is that it is global, it reaches out, you don't have to travel, an author doesn't have to travel, they can do that session from their own home. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, we had a really interesting one where we were hosting it in the UK. The author that we were doing the event with, Alan Durant, was actually in South Africa, and the school that we were doing this author visit with was actually in Singapore. So a good example of that global relationship. So these are just a few of the events that we've organised in the last months, some for schools and children, some for teachers and librarians in an evening to introduce them to a range of authors and new books. One of our partners that we support is Achievement for All, and they organised the 200 Million Minutes Reading Challenge, which this year took part from the 4th to the 31st of March. And the aim is that during that period, children across the country and beyond read, and hopefully we will achieve a 200 million minutes reading target. As I say, we support this. So we organised 3 events with authors Kathy Cassidy, Dan Friedman and Lucy Walters. And we're still calculating how many minutes we were read through this, but 1,800 children took part over these 3 events. Then we reached World Book Day, and we decided we wanted to try and do something special. So for the first time, we organised a virtual Awesome Author Fest for World Book Day week. It was 7 multi-school events over 5 days, again with some leading children's writers and illustrators, poets and storytellers. And over 30,000 children and young people took part in that. And I think we were really blown away by the success of it and the lovely feedback that we received. So for World Book Day itself, in that 3-week period, we had 240 individual virtual author sessions for schools. We had 54 on World Book Day, and 47,500 children and young people took part in one of our events. No mean feat, because the schools were still in lockdown. They didn't go back until the 8th of March. So it was challenging, but it was great fun. And these are just a couple of the feedback comments that we received. And I love the one in the middle, which was from a student. Thank you for this, Miss. It was impactful and inspiring for the students. It also inspired me to hurry up and finish my book. And one I love the most, which was from a mum who sent me in her child's drawing, who Eden, age 5, who took part in the Tony DeSaule's World Book Day draw along. And I love this quote because it really shows the impact that we have on children and families when we're arranging for them to work with some of our authors. So what's next for us? Well, virtual visits have really taken off, and they have proved to be really successful in engaging children and young people and families and schools. So virtual visits and events will continue alongside physical visits when physical visits resume, and we still don't know when that is likely to happen. We're working with new partners, one of which is to enable us to bring author experiences as part of teacher training. We're definitely going to be doing more virtual parties to showcase more of our authors, because we've had some lovely feedback from teachers and librarians saying they love them because it really does let them see a taste of an author before they decide to book one. And we're looking at an increased focus on developing international partnerships and school visits. We have 2 book launches next week, and I'd like to extend an invitation to any of you who would like to come and join us. You would be most welcome. I've put the URLs in, but when our next speaker comes on, I'll pop those in the chat box for you if anyone would like to come and register. So what have we learned? Well, we've survived an incredibly challenging time for us. We've made a difference during that period. We've certainly, Naomi and I, we've certainly developed lots of new ideas and new skills. And most important, we've made sure that children have had access to authors and books and stories to help keep them enjoying reading. And I think the big thing that we've also learned is we can do it if we put our minds to it. It's been exhausting, it's been stressful, and it's been very hard at times, but it has been great fun and it has been wonderful. So April 2021, and we're excited for what the future will bring for us in the next year or 2. I've included all our contact details, our website, my email, and do email me if you have any queries or you want to follow anything up, plus our social media channels. If you go onto our website, you can sign up for our newsletter. As I say, we bring stories, poetry and illustration to life by connecting authors, illustrators, poets and storytellers with children and young people with the aim of encouraging them to read for pleasure. So thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully some of you will be in touch.
Thank you, Annie. What an inspiring story. I saw some comments in the chat about so many activities, and there certainly were wonderful. And another invitation to us all. So Lucy and Jenna have invited us to something later in the week, and you've invited us to functions next week. We'll be waiting to see what Rashida has got for us, if we're getting an invitation to something in Malaysia in the next little while. But all of those links will be great for people to follow up, and also the link through to your website is on our website as part of your biography. So thank you so much. I particularly like the training courses for virtual visits for the authors. I thought that was a really positive thing to do, and I think that it's a shame that a lot of other industries haven't done something similar, because we have all had to adapt, and a lot of us, it's been a bit trial and error. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, our next speaker is Dr. Rashida Bolhassan, and Rashida is a member of the Literacy and Reading Standing Committee, and she's Malaysia's Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development. A very, very important role. Rashida specialises in knowledge management, and throughout her professional career, she's been entrusted to set up, transform, market and lead knowledge organisations. So Rashida has moved into this new role in the last few months, and she is incredibly busy. And so we're very, very grateful that she's been able to take time today to speak to us about some initiatives that happened in Malaysia during COVID in relation to reading. So welcome, Rashida.
Thank you, Jane. Let me try to share my slide. Hopefully it will be there. Bear with me. Oh, share, okay. All right, okay. Thank you, Jane, for the kind introduction. And Annie, indeed, your activities are really very interesting. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I'm just going to share with you what we experienced, what I call this COVID-induced literacy and reading agenda for Sarawak. And I was, this is me. Thank you, Jane, for the introduction. And indeed, I have been in a new position, totally away from libraries. But the invitation for this came from Atlanta. So I said, as a member of the IFLA Standing Committee, I'll just kind of share what we have in Sarawak. And these are my co-authors who have been providing me with information from my previous organization, the Sarawak State Library. We have a new CEO there now, which is led by Arpa. And Edison has been the one who has been helping me a lot together with Salina. Salina is 1 hour's flight away from Kuching, and she is the regional manager for our northern region. Now, what will I be sharing today? Simply what I'm going to share with you as an introduction to Sarawak State Library, and then what are our literacy initiatives, reading initiatives, and then hopefully there will be time for question and answer. Now, excuse me if I sound a bit dry here. My sugar level is very low at the moment. Today is a first day of fasting, and I should be breaking my fast in any minute from now. Now, you might wonder, where is Sarawak? A lot of, I think most of you must have been to the IFLA Kuala Lumpur, and Kuala Lumpur is 1.5 hours flight from us. There's no choice. We just have to fly from Kuala Lumpur to Sarawak, and we have 3 campuses in the whole state of Sarawak, and we have multiracial population of 2.7 million. When I say multiracial over there, we have more than 30 indigenous groups in our state. Besides, we have Chinese, Indian, and also the Malays. And this is a picture of our library across the lake there. And it is in a park of about 100 acres. Besides, when I was working there, besides looking after the books and the services there, I also have to look after the parks and the trees and making sure that they are conducive environment for the community. So much so that this library now is a community place, and it is a place for people to go, not just for their reading, but also for their exercise and for the community to meet. That was pre-COVID. Before that, even weddings were being held there, graduations were being held there. So really it was a community place that they can call a place of their own. This is one thing that we like to share. Maybe we might be the only library in the world with glass staircase. It is a functional staircase for people to go up and down. It's just a two floors building. We do have lifts for those people who do not like to walk over glasses. And this is one of the features that I'm proud of in this building. Now, we have been 21 years in service. I still say we with my Sarawak State Library, and we have a staff of about 195, and we have 4 campuses. Now there are 2 campuses in Kuching and the other one in our central region and the northern region. Now, a little bit of our structure over here. As a state library, we do not look after the public libraries. The public libraries are under the local authorities. So we look into state matters. And not only do we function as a state library, but we also function as a state depository, looking after our state archive as well. Now, this is nothing new to everyone, the impacts on COVID, and much so on the Sarawak State Library. We have to close all our campuses. Even though we close our campuses, services are still needed. All of us have to work from home. It was a very steep learning curve for all of us, not just ourselves in the organization, but also with our users, because they still need information services. And during COVID, we identified the gaps in our online service delivery. And we have to identify and be innovative in our services. And we literally go digital. And a lot of innovations have got to go into it in curating the initiatives of our services in the library. Now we'll talk about the literacy initiatives. As I mentioned just now, we went completely virtual almost. When before this, we did not have our YouTube channel. We were not really so much on Twitter, but we have been quite active on Facebook and on Instagram. Now, when we were doing this, we have to do another form of literacy, especially amongst us in the organization. We have to start with ourselves because we have to really raise the level of literacy amongst ourselves working in the organization before we can provide the services to the people. So we have to grapple initially with virtual conferencing because each of us have to be working from home and we are coordinating our meeting from home. And when we want to go online, we have to develop contents. And of course, we have to broadcast them. And learning on how to work online and coordinating things online without face-to-face as we used to be was something that we have to grapple with. And I'm sure a lot of others too. And this was our work from home schedule. 3 days from home, but there was once that we was a total lockdown for 3 months. We were not allowed to even go out from our house, but we have to have our meeting. We have to have our board meeting, and our annual report and our financial statement have got to be closed in April at that point of time as well. But for our staff who are in the who have chronic diseases, they are allowed totally to work from home, not even coming to the office. And to support that, we support our staff with laptops. We rent laptops for those of our staff who do not have, and we subsidize their data plans as well. Now, during COVID, what we did was offer our services to the government to say that we will be able to do things for you. And what we did was produce public awareness materials for the government. And these are posters all done by my colleagues in the State Library. And you can imagine before this, we were not graphic designers. These are all done by librarians. And they, as I said just now, we have to learn how to put posters using online materials and working together with the Ministry of Health so that the information that we put up on our posters for our people in the local language are authorized information. And having to work with the health department as well is something that we have to learn, and working with them online. And this has been put up on the government channels, because being in another region, most of the national broadcasting will cover on the other bigger cities. So with the government set up its own communication channels, and then we feed this information to these communication channels of our state. And during COVID as well, because people do not come to the library, so we have to reach out to them. So through YouTube's and our online websites and our Facebook and on our Instagram, we have been pushing a lot of information to the people. We put reviews, and our staff make book reviews. And last year alone, from March till December, we reviewed and put onto our websites and our media channels, 1,523 books have been reviewed. This is really an amount. In the last 5 years, we did not review that many books. And not only just putting the review on static review, but we also did book talks online through our YouTube channel. And every week, we almost operate not like a library, but more like a broadcasting station for the government. Besides having book talks, we also created videos on content development, and also videos on how do you do entrepreneur or starting your business online, and all that. And with our YouTube channel, this is one of the things that we started because of COVID. Thanks to COVID for this. We, as I mentioned just now, we have a lot of videos created by our staff who are librarians. They become producers, actors, and also broadcasters. We have community talks. We have librarian talks, of course. We have our bit space, because our library is also a makerspace campaigner. And we have makerspace initiatives as well. And all that is being delivered online through our Pustaka channel on YouTube. And never had we had so much postings on our social media in that few months of last year compared to the previous few years. And this was the number of postings that we did on our YouTube channel based on our regional office as well. Pustaka Cebu. Cebu is our central region. Miri is our northern region. Our library services in Kuching itself, and then general information from our corporate communications, and of course from our archive and depository division. So as you can see, while these are the kind of literacy that we have to kind of come up with, and so that we can produce these contents and online. And what were the literacy and reading for library users, you may ask, because earlier on I started with the literacy and reading for our own staff. Just before the pandemic lockdown, this is something that we planned ever since in 2019. We had a program which we call PANDE, which stands for People's Accessible Network for Digital Empowerment and Inclusivity, because we insisted on our state government that the library has to play a very important role in providing digital literacy for the people, because our state was embracing a digital economy starting 2017, and all the beautiful applications, all the beautiful initiatives of the government for for the population to embrace in the digital economy might just be a waste if the people are not digital literate. So we started that program, and that point of time when we started it, it was a face-to-face. And when we find that when we did a face-to-face, because of the limited resources that we have, and also because of the vastness of the state and with the geographical impediments that we have, then we started to think of something along the line of modes, the online learning which universities have been offering these years. So we started to plan for that. And just before the COVID, we launched it. Just before the lockdown, we launched that program. And lo and behold, that was the one that sort of really fitting for the time, even to an extent we have to produce a module on our online learning platform for the elders, for those people who would like to learn on how to do virtual conferencing because they have been separated from their families. They want to keep in touch with their families and they want to talk to their families, but they were not able to. So in that in that program that we had 5 modules initially. We talk about information for the community. We talk about how people can use the government applications. We talk about how the people can do online business and transactions. Excuse me, I just have to break my fast. Thank you. And we also, most importantly, talk about cybersecurity and law, because already by then we have already receiving reports in the newspapers that there are scammers and people are being victims of it and they lose a lot of money. And we also have a module which we call Pustaka in a Box, which was using Raspberry Pi, and especially for those places which do not have internet connectivity, and we teach them how to use this for them to set up their own local area network. And sorry, this is in Bahasa Malaysia, but those are the modules, and this is the online that we have, and I will give you the link afterwards. And this is free for people, and we have people signing in, and so far we have up to since March, we have like 2,000 students and in this. When I say students will be the users, regardless of what age you are. When we did this face-to-face, the number was quite small because we have to go one place to another place. And at any one time, we were just able to give to not more than 50 people because we have to do in a workshop. But when we offered this one online, the participation was beyond our expectation. Now, how did we do this? We developed the curriculum. We work with not just people in our organization from the State Library, but also from the police, for example, and from those who are doing developing programs, for example. And we want to also produce an application for this, which we work with our technical provider. And with that, we still have to do user education. So we conduct webinars online and to teach them how to use that module online just now. And we have been having a number of seminars or webinars, we call them, online because we cannot see each other physically. So it's, as Annie was saying just now, it all goes online. And now from there, a lot of our other programs went online, and one of them is our Reading Seeds program. This is an early reading program, and we put up their modules on how parents will read to their children. The modules that we set up for in our Reading Seeds kit, where we give manuals on how students or parents read to their children, when do they read to their children, how do they read to their children, and we offered this online. And you can also go online and see what are the activities over there. We have a host of modules there, including songs for children, for the parents to sing to their children, how and when do they read, and all that. We put it up in our online platform. And when the parents collect their kids, they have to register their newborn child to the library. those parents, this program is open to those parents who have children 3 years and below, and they will keep, and they will bring back with them the kit. They will collect it from the library, and then they will go online. And besides the physical books that we have, we also have 400 book titles which are available online. Annie, I would love to see some of the books of your books on this online platform as well. And that's the link that you can go to and go through the programs that we had. And while other ministries look at this, and our Ministry of Tourism saw this, and at that point of time when tourism is the most impacted industry because of COVID, and that was the time for them to recoup and reflect, and also look at what can they do to support those being affected by all the lockdowns. And tourism being one of our major income earners for the state. So what they did was we worked together with them, created a modules together with the people from the ministry, and then we put this on our online learning platform. And these are for not only for tourists who would like to come over, but most importantly for our tourist guides, and also those who are being affected, like our Grab drivers. These are like the Uber sort of services, and those homestays, and those people, especially those who have anything to do with tourism, they are the modules prepared for them. So the other ministries are coming in now as well to kind of work together with the library so that we can also create online learning platform for the respective business of the other ministries. As I mentioned just now, there will be more online, and this is in the pipeline now. The Ministry of Entrepreneurship are coming up, and Ministry of Women, where I am in now, I'll be pushing so that their services will also go online as well. These include things like substance abuse awareness program, because the ministry normally would go down to the longhouses, to the villages, and to the communities, talking about prevention of drug addiction and what we call substance abuse awareness program. But this will be online soon. We will talk about more on advanced online security. And we have one major social issue here, teenage pregnancy, and it is Sarawak, I must say, is the highest in Malaysia with teenage pregnancy occurrences. And this module will also come in the online learning platform. Now, fire prevention in the community. One of our indigenous community, they live in long houses, meaning to say it's a long house of 50 doors under one roof. And fire prevention in the community is very, very important. So this will also come. We work together with the fire department, and they will come in with the contents for these courses. So now you can see the literacy of our own staff versus the literacy of the people, the users now is now beyond just books, and we have to keep on teaching them on our digital literacy. How do you access, and how do you sign up as a user? And we have other partners. We are going ASEAN, and this going in the region now, and we partner with Asia Foundation as well as with support from google.org, and we go digital ASEAN. And based on our platform on the online digital literacy just now, the Startup Malaysia put on top of that this digital skills training for youth, for job seekers, for entrepreneurs, and for those people who lost their jobs because of COVID. And these are the things that we work online. So much so that we created the state government and trusted the state library to look into developing 42 digital community centers. This one we work in collaboration with existing public libraries, which are under the local authorities, and we equip these digital community centers with digital devices, not just at that center at the library, but where the people, the volunteers and the staff can also go out into the community. And this will be coming more as we know COVID is going to be here to stay, and especially on virtual conferencing. One of the major feature of these digital community centers are with digital conferencing facilities, so that people who cannot go from one district to another can talk with each other. Now, reading initiatives. People still say, we still want books. What do you do with it? Some people still do not want to go online. So what we did was we prepared a book bear service. This is just like your Uber service, or what we call here the Grab service. And you will, once you are a member of the library, you go on and download the application and you tell us what are the books that you want, and we will deliver the books to you to your homes. Because there's still one physical books. So we have been doing this, delivering this to our community users. And on a nationwide basis, every year, I think this is in sync with what Annie was doing just now. This is an annual book event on World Book Day on the 23rd of April, where we read nationwide for 10 minutes at 11 a.m. Everybody stop reading. We will work not just with schools, we work with departments, we work with shopping complexes and all the libraries, be it public, state and academic libraries or special libraries or private libraries. We work with them and we have been promoting this. And this year is going to be on the 22nd of April, and it's every year. We started this one in 2014, and every year we'll drop everything, like stop, and we work with the radios and television and to promote this for our people. And this is in collaboration with the National Library, the Librarians Association, the Council of the State Library Directors, and also the University Libraries and the Book Industry of Malaysia. And the State Library now also collect all the COVID-19 resources, not just at the state level, but also internationally. And that is something for people to refer to if they want to refer to anything on COVID-19 ever since it started, including the daily reports of COVID happenings and cases in our state. Wow, I think I've taken much of the time. Thank you. Jen, over to you. And I've given you my email in case there are questions that you want to ask me. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rashida. What fantastic things that you're doing. And I particularly found the work that you're doing around digital and media and information literacy fascinating, and adds a different perspective to our presentation today. So I can see that there are a couple of questions already in the question and answers, so we'll get to them, but you can maybe have something to drink while you're while you're waiting.
A banana.
Our final great. Such a great cook as you, I thought it would be something more exotic.
Thank you.
Those of you who aren't friends of Rashida on Facebook, her Facebook feeds are full of beautiful photos of flowers from her garden and other places, but also the most wonderful food that she cooks. So yes. Our final speakers today are from the Netherlands, and they are Demi van der A and Kelly Rooms, and they both work as mediators for children's literature. Now, I'm going to be a real, we would say a sook here in Australia, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce the organisation that you work for, or if I do, I'll totally mangle it. So I will leave it over to you to pronounce it. Atlanta would have been able to do it, but yeah, not me. So thank you so much, and over to you, ladies.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Jen, and everyone else for your very, very nice presentations. The name of our organization is the Schrijverscentrale, which is roughly translated as the Writers Platform. We're a little bit doing a little bit the same as Authors Aloud, which Annie talked about, but there are also a lot of differences. Mainly we are government funded, and we are an institution that mediates in writers' performances in education, libraries, bookstores, and festivals. So unlike Annie, we don't organize fully every everything, but we just mediate in it. We encourage encounters between writers and their audiences, and we ensure that stories and literature are visible and accessible to everyone. Our activities encourage cultural participation, have a positive impact on talent development, and enhance the accessibility and visibility of literature in the Netherlands. All of this leads to a more diverse and cultural landscape. As you may know, the Netherlands is not as big as the States or Malaysia or anything. So we're a small country, and normally we make physical visits happen in the Netherlands all over the place. And our organization is based in Amsterdam. And we have two departments, which is the Department for Children's Literature, where Kelly and I work in. And we also have a department where just the overall literature and visits to more adult events are mediated. Our authors' visits create an atmosphere in which children and also adults become better and more interested readers, and even get inspiration to become storytellers themselves. Over 4,000 writers, poets, and illustrators are represented by us. And around 750 different authors get their visits organized by our organization each year. The numbers fluctuate a little bit, but around 5,000 visits are organized on a yearly basis. And more than half of these are visits to schools, either primary, secondary, and tertiary education. With these visits, over 400,000 people are reached in the Netherlands each year. And we, as the Writers Platform, pay out roughly 2 million euros to authors due to all their visits. With all our efforts, we were nominated for 3 Astrid Lindgren Memorial Awards already, which is an incredible honor to us. But also then in the Netherlands, COVID struck in March 2020.
Yeah, in March 2020, as was the case in the rest of the world, the Netherlands went in lockdown and all the schools were closed. And there were about hundreds of visits from authors and illustrators to mostly primary schools that were canceled because schools weren't open anymore. So we had to do something. In less than a month, we launched the pilot Schrijver op je scherm. So writer on your screen translated. Writer on your screen is a platform with which we enabled writers to continue their visits to readers, to schools, to libraries online. We started out consulting both authors and illustrators themselves, but also what we call the organizers. So those are librarians, teachers, booksellers, all the people that usually come to us to book an author. Those are the organizers to us. And we consulted them to discuss which form these online visits should take, what the price should be, the length of an online performance. For example, when a writer visits a primary school, it takes 1 hour to visit a class, but we weren't sure if the attention, if children could keep their attention for 1 hour. So we switched that to 30 minutes, but more about that later. Because one of our main goals is to ensure that writers get the rightful amount of money they deserve for their performances. We found it very important that this was the case for their online visits as well. So we got help from the Koninklijke Bibliotheek, the Dutch National Library, and also the Letterenfonds, the Dutch Foundation for Literature, to help us out with funding. So they funded the online visits of writers to classes, to libraries, so they could book the authors with a special discount and make it easier to decide to switch to an online visit. So Schrijver op je scherm took the shape of a website, which Demi will show you right now. Let me see. Here it is.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as Kelly was saying, Writer on Your Screen started with a specially made website, and on this website, 20 well-known children's authors introduced themselves with a video to promote our startup. And we chose to start with those authors that had the most cancellations due to the COVID restrictions in schools. But any author represented by the Writers platform was welcome to join the startup, and we mediated the online visits for every author in our immediately. And thus, many writers went on to visit and perform at primary schools, high schools, libraries, and literary festivals through the screen. On the website, we not only posted the introductions of the 20 writers and illustrators, and we also explained how it worked, but we also have an elaborate page on with inspiration for online visits. For example, on the page, people could find out where to find digital reading materials when all national libraries and schools were closed, and also instructions for organizations and authors how to prepare for an online event. And the actual visits and options, Kelly will tell you a little bit about. We have three options.
Back to the PowerPoint. We distinguished three forms of online performances. First of all, the personal video, which was especially popular in primary schools. The author or illustrator made a personal video of 15 minutes or sometimes 30 minutes in which they tell the children about themselves, about his or her work, like they would do in a regular class visit. And because at that time, a lot of free videos showed up with people reading stories, telling stories, we encourage both the authors and the organizers to make this video as personal as possible. So especially at primary schools, we told the teachers to prepare the visit, to ask questions and send them to the author so they could answer these questions in the video and make it more special. The video stays up for a limited amount of time, mostly 3 weeks. So to prevent that, it will spread to other readers, to other schools. And most of the time we put the video on our own YouTube and send the hidden link to the organizer so other people can find the video by themselves. I just want to show you a little example of one of our authors, Martine Letterie. Just to give you an idea, so we made up this form of a personal video, and it was really nice to see how writers took the idea and went with it. So Martine Letterie is a very well-known children's books writer of historical fiction. And she made a lot of mini documentaries about the subjects in her books. And we now offer these videos as additional material to her visits to school classes. So for example, she visits the school in person or via Zoom, and we a week before the school watches this video to give them more insight into the subject, which I think is really nice. All right. Well, the live online visit, the second form, is the most popular form by now. Well, as you can see on the picture, children's book authors visit school via Zoom or via Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, and most of the time they are streamed on the digital school board. And we think this is the most accurate replacement of a regular writer's visit, especially when it comes to schools. Because we noticed that both authors and librarians and teachers emphasize the importance of interaction between the writer and the audience. And in this shape, the author still starts out by telling a little bit about themselves, telling about their books, but then it's question time, and the interaction may be even more important than the story in the books. at that moment. We also noticed that a lot of libraries organized interviews or book clubs in this form. And of course, seminars like the one we are in right now are kind of also a live online visit. The third option was Writer Reads to You, or Schrijver leest voor, which was a project in cooperation with the Dutch National Library. We offered the libraries a subscription of 5 videos per week, in which 5 authors read from their work to the library's audience. And the library could take the subscription and distribute the videos any way they like. So some shared it via their newsletter or on their Facebook page, but there were also libraries that just streamed it on a large screen in the library when it was physically open again. In the past year, we noticed that there was a fourth form of online performance that emerged, which was a live stream from a location, in which the writer or illustrator travels to the location as they would do in a normal event, and gives a lecture or is interviewed, but then the organization records and streams the event to the audience, which is really nice. Okay. Well, as may be expected, not everyone was on board right away. And we found that it was our goal to make sure that these online performances go as smoothly as possible. So first of all, we held masterclasses for our writers, given by writers who were already more experienced in online performances, so they were able to exchange the tips and tricks that are really important to them. We started out with masterclasses right before the National Children's Book Week, which is in the beginning of October, and quickly followed up with masterclasses for the rest. And it was really interesting to see that librarians were the ones that were the first to experience with the online possibilities. But on the other hand, there were also many librarians that were a little bit scared to try new stuff out. And I can imagine that when you have a smaller library with not that many technical possibilities, you would rather wait until the pandemic was over to organize something again than try out all those scary online stuff. But well, as you know, the lockdown wasn't over in just a few months. So a few months ago, we held a seminar to inspire all those librarians and just show them how simple an online performance can be. It doesn't have to be a very elaborate seminar. It can be a book club via Zoom or just an interview on YouTube. Besides these masterclasses and seminars, we also developed scripts, documents with tips and tricks, examples of corona-proof events to send out to organizers and authors. And we even made simple instruction manuals of the 3 tools that are mostly used here in the Netherlands, which are Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meet. And these are a few examples of the things that were that took place in the past year. So first of all is a very well-known children's books author, Joshua Douglas, who recorded a video as a mystery writer. He read out from one of his books and children had to guess which author it was. On the second picture, you see, well, one of those many online visits to schools. So the writer is streamed on the digital school board and the children can interact. Mostly we advise to put a second laptop up with the camera to the children so the writer can see how they interact and if they laugh at the right jokes. The third is an illustration workshops for students. Students of primary education are one of our important clients, and they were also able to adapt and organize online workshops. The fourth one is the inauguration of the National Poet. So as you maybe are able to see, the new National Poet was at home connected with the presenter who was streamed from a library with a microphone and like a regular event. In March is our National Book Week, and usually a lot of authors visit libraries and bookshops across the whole country, but unfortunately that's never took place as well. But the organization made live streams from the theater with interviews from well-known authors. And really nice as well was one of our children's books writers lives in the US and organized visits of illustrators and writers to Dutch schools in the US, something that could never take place if online visits weren't a thing yet. All right.
Well, due to the virus, unfortunately, in 2020, the Writers platform was only able to mediate in like half of our regular number of performances. So in 2020, it was 2,800 visits instead of our regular 5,000 visits a year. But thanks to Writer on the Screen, in 1/4 of the visits to schools, libraries, and other institutions, writers were able to reach their audiences online. It resulted in a total of 750 online performances in 2020, which we are really happy about, also made possible with the funding Kelly told us about. And also this year, Writer on Your Screen will continue on. Due to an elaborate funding we received from the Dutch Literature Foundation, we were able to contribute to over 1,400 authors' visits with a maximum of €500 on each visit. Organizations qualified for the contribution if they were able to come up with a plan B if a physical visit from an author isn't an option yet. That means that in most of the visits, Writer on Your Screen is used to ensure that visits will actually take place. We are also working on expanding Writer on Your Screen even further. So we started a collaboration with the Dutch Language Union to bring a Writer on Your Screen to Dutch schools all over the world. We will mediate online visits from Dutch authors in areas where Dutch is spoken. And also funding for these visits will be available for universities that offer Dutch language courses, so they can invite that Dutch authors to their universities and to their schools all over the world without having all those expensive travel expenses. We also noticed that Writer on Your Screen works the other way around. So Dutch authors living outside of the Netherlands can visit schools, libraries, and other events from their own residences in the Netherlands. So we've already mediated visits to the Netherlands with authors living in the States, in Russia, and also the Dutch Antilles. So we're very excited for that as well. So much like other inventions during COVID, we are pleased that Writer on Your Screen was a success. And we see it as an enrichment of our organization with much possibilities for the future, which is hopefully soon COVID-free. And thank you all for listening. And we're very happy to talk a little bit more about it if you have any questions.
Thank you both so much for a fantastic presentation. You really have taken a difficult time and turned it into a real positive. It's about finding that silver lining, and how you've personalized those visits for the children. And I can see that there would be opportunities that you would use going forward. One of the things I particularly liked that you were speaking about was that it was important that authors were paid appropriately during COVID. And I think that that's so important, that we recognise that they are professionals and that they need to be recompensed. And as we know, a lot of people did things during COVID that they thought that they could do themselves. And yeah, it's great to see the support for the authors and the illustrators and the other professionals. So thank you, everyone. We've really run out of time. We've had such great presentations, we do have a couple of questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send those questions to our authors, to our presenters, and ask them to consider them, and we will put them up online so that you can think about it. But most of them are around whether or not connectivity has been a consideration. So, you know, we have talked a lot about how during lockdown we've moved to putting a lot of the services online. But what about those children and adults who don't have access and or who have poor internet connectivity? So I will send those questions to you, and you can ask, you can think about those, and then we'll give them back to our community. So I really want to thank our presenters for the work that they did in developing these programs, and congratulate them on some absolutely wonderful initiatives. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Tonight's program has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel in the next few days. And we'll send you an email and a link when that's happened. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues. We'll also be sending you an evaluation form at the end of our midterm program, and I really encourage you to complete this. And you can be honest and say, you know, you need to get your game together as far as the technology is concerned, because yes, we do need to learn that, and we could probably, you know, have some training from some of these wonderful experts here. So this is the final program for today, but we have 2 more sessions scheduled for tomorrow and our standing committee meetings on Thursday. Don't forget, you've also been invited to attend a couple of other events, and those links will put into the chat. So I hope to see you tomorrow night. I'll be there as a participant and or at the meeting on Thursday. But for now, from me, it's 9:30 at night outside. It's cold and it's just started to rain. So I thank you, everybody, and I wish you good night and or good morning. Have a great day, and speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.